Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield on this May 2nd, Thursday, May 2nd. I can't believe it's already May. And we've got the Dynamic Discs Open starting tomorrow. So, no rest. Let's go. We're back at it, Josh.
It feels like it never stops. Charlie, though, I did want to mention, I saw on Instagram, Gavin Babcock posted a photo with George Kittle.
Oh, I saw this.
Wasn't that crazy?
Yes.
I mean, it's just another one of those, like, famous people who play disc golf.
How did that happen?
I don't know. There's no details, which I wish I would have seen more, but...
I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, there you go. Now you get the tie into the 49ers, too.
I mean, I love that Kittle likes to get out there and do a little frolfin, Also, in this photo, like, he's a big dude. Like, I mean,
Gavin is a big dude.
He's not as big as Kittle, but like, he doesn't look like a little shrimpy guy next to George Kittle. And George Kittle is a big bad man.
Yes. yeah. No, that Gavin Babcock is a big dude.
But that's sick. I don't know how they got connected, but I absolutely love it. And obviously, I already think George Kittle's the best. So now he's even more the best.
It just adds to it.
All right, we're going to dip into our mailbag this week. And as you should know, but we will tell you in case you do not remember, you can always reach us with your thoughts, comments, questions, rants, to hate on Josh's takes, whatever you got. Upshot at multiworld.com. And we look at everything. So please send us your thoughts. And Josh, I'll let you go ahead and grab the first mail for today.
Well, we had one come in this morning, and that's kind of what inspired us to say, you know what, let's get this mailbag going, because it's a great point. Corey, so we talked about doing free spectator tickets or having like a free GA zone that is very easily accessible. You can see 3 or 4 holes. Corey points out, why not let PDGA members get into the majors for free? Flash that little card that you get in the mail when renewing our membership for the first time. I love this take. This is such a great idea.
Why the heck not?
Right?
Like, from the PDGA perspective, their majors are already, depends on the tournament, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But like, look at Champions Cup. I mean, they might as well not have sold tickets. They made a negligible amount of money from selling tickets for that tournament. They're already going to have the purse be whatever it is. They're already allocating budget to these events. And so, like, there's already a plan before they've sold tickets on, like, what they're going to do. Now, obviously, if they sell a gazillion tickets, that helps the bottom line. They can do more for the purse, all that good stuff.
Sure.
And I don't think they should get away from that. But why not create that incentive? Because, I mean, they're looking to juice memberships, right? Like, this is the lifeblood of their business.
Right. Yep. Not spectator tickets.
Right. That might be something that gets somebody over the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you limit it. Maybe you say you get 1 free round or 2 free rounds to any major.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't see the downside. I really can't. And they should get discounts on all tickets for PDGA majors at a minimum. And perhaps you consider giving them discounts on all tickets. Same way they get a discount for a DGN subscription.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Great suggestion.
Great suggestion.
Easy. Yeah.
I mean, it seems so obvious as soon as I see it said. All right. I want to pull up this one from, I actually pulled this from the Disc Golf Debate Group. I don't know when this post was. Within the past couple of days. This one comes from Bobcat on the Facebook page. I feel completely disconnected from the tour this year. Usually I know the schedule and look forward to coverage. The loss of several features in UDisc are being felt more and more as the season goes on. I miss clicking on a player's profile and seeing their stats and stat rankings. And the PDGA app and the DGN app did not have a tour schedule. You have to go through hoops to figure out what the next tournament is. I hope they make it better soon. The fact that I can't change the date range on the PDGA app is silly. Allow me to change the date range or just sort by tier type Disc Golf Pro Tour. And as a follow-on, Adam Hammis in the comments, and this has the most likes and upvotes, getting rid of UDisc has turned a ton of people away from caring to follow professional disc golf. It was a massive step down in our sport. I don't think many realize it, but I think it's one of the bigger setbacks we've had. Josh, I mean, obviously we've been kind of chronicling this whole saga since there was this late decision to make the change over to PDGA. And there are these are valid points.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I feel like maybe there's a little bit of an overstatement here from like Adam Hammis saying something like, this is the reason people are no longer following the tour. I mean, I think if people are finding themselves getting pulled away from the watching pro disc golf, it probably has more to do with people are going to the office more. People are traveling with their family more. Like life has resumed a level of normalcy, and we're, it's not pandemic times where we have a lot of free time anymore. This maybe is a reason that it doesn't hurt. It doesn't help. I will admit that. But that said, this is a problem. Like, we still don't have accessible stats on the PDGA or the Pro Tour website. Mm-hmm. We do not have a pretty UI, which UDisc had. We do not have a place where you can simply go to easily see the schedule, the scores, the stats. How is that possible? It's May. Like I said, right? Remember what was Line in the Sand episode? I think I said Champions Cup, but honestly, maybe I said DDO.
I thought it was end of Texas Swing.
I mean, maybe. I've forgotten now, but like, regardless, we're there.
We're crossing
the line.
Past. Yeah.
Like, it's so frustrating that these things are still a problem, and we're having all this unreliability of the stats themselves. The PDGA app is not good. Like, we're seeing all these aces go in all the time,
missing,
and then they're showing the scores on the broadcast that are completely wrong because there was notably one at Champions Cup where, or I think in round one, a bunch of guys were listed with an ace on a par 5.
It was on hole 12.
Maybe it was.
There were 4 players who got an ace on hole 12.
I forget who the player was, but whoever was at the top of the leaderboard was actually even par, but they were showed as 4 under because they had been given an ace on a par 5. And like, I don't even think that's necessarily the scorekeeper's fault. The app is a little bit buggy. It's fussy. And like, again, I have some leeway, but like, regular fans don't care about your excuses. They just don't. Like, you need to fix it. You need to make it better. PDGA Live needs to be better. Like, the guy is totally right. There should be a way for me to only see Disc Golf Pro Tour events. I do not care about the scores at the A tiers, B tiers, C tiers, D tiers, whatever.
Yep.
And it's extremely frustrating. And the thing is, the stat data exists. It's just literally about displaying it on the web. And that hasn't happened. And like, I'm sure there's reasons why. It takes time, you need developer, etc. But like, I don't know. It's very frustrating.
Here's where I think Adam Hammis is correct and in his classification and what I think is the real impact of this. There are layers to the way people follow disc golf. You have those who listen to multiple podcasts a week, who watch every single tournament, and then they go watch some Jomez or other post coverage, or they watch the Jomez practice rounds. They literally consume everything that's available to them. And then you have those, and I think those are probably a smaller minority. Then you have those who just watch live coverage, and they catch almost all the live coverage. But after that group, you have a group of people who watch a lot of live coverage, but also have life that gets in the way, right? They have events, they have family events, they have work, and so they're not able to catch every single tournament, every single round. And those people, the way that they used to engage with the event was through UDisc. I think that there are a group of people who, due to life's commitments that you talked about earlier, Charlie, have scaled back their involvement and who, in their efforts to try and stay involved in the tour, have become frustrated with the lack of access to stats, with the lack of access to a schedule, with everything, unable to go back and look at older tournaments without having to go search them. And thus you must search like the exact name in order to find it, and not pull up like 2022's tournament. Like those people, I think you start to lose quicker into, I just don't follow the Pro Tour anymore. And so they drop out of the, oh, I watch anytime I can, and I always have UDisc up on my phone when I can't. And I think we've lost a group of those people because of the tech issues.
Totally agree. And then you've got the people who just want to like know what's going on, who don't even watch live, but maybe are like people who watch the majors.
Sure.
Like that's me in golf, right? I mentioned this before.
Yep.
Like I'm not watching week to week in the golf. I'm like aware enough of what's going on that like I know who's good, I know about the live stuff, whatever. But then I watch the Masters and then, you know, the US Open. Like and that's just how much I'm interested in. But, you know, when I go in to watch the Masters, I couldn't be a more pleasant experience. They have this amazing app. I can watch all these video feeds. I can follow the players. I can hit the stars, whole thing. Now, I don't expect disc golf to have that level of app, right? That's an app that's getting millions of dollars of development.
Sure.
And I think what is available now for just being able to watch live coverage is great, you know? You still have the very accessible first round on YouTube, and that's fine. But the scores and like just knowing what's happening in the tournament experience is significantly worse than it was. And, you know, that doesn't even begin to talk about the fact that they don't even have stats on multiple cards every tournament. Crazy.
That's including your Champions Cup winner.
And the question is like, would it have been worth the money for the tour to just pony up and pay UDisc what they wanted? Or to come to a longer term agreement that like establishes for the future. And I genuinely wonder if they think about going back to UDisc and restarting this next year.
That's an interesting question.
I doubt it because of how much development time has been put in. But I mean, UDisc was
ugly.
pretty. It was nice to use.
So
it was
good.
Pleasant.
PDGA
Live is utilitarian. It is designed for scorekeeping and not for user experience.
I literally go to we go to UDisc to look at previous tournament results.
I know.
And every time I do, it's like it feels like a warm blanket, like I'm coming home. Because it's just so much better.
Oh my gosh. All right, what's next, Josh?
Yeah. All right. Don says, and he prefaces this that he's a huge fan of both Brian Earhart and Nate Perkins on ground coverage, but he has an issue with the fact that he doesn't think it's their place to help players find errant discs. He gets that they want to be helpful, but he doesn't think it's fair to other players that are competing in the tournament. He says, quote, "That's another set of eyes available to help only 4 players in the division, and I don't think it's fair to the other competitors that the on-course reporters can help the lead and chase card players avoid a penalty, especially when you consider the possibility that a camera person could possibly communicate with where the disc could be, and the fact that they may have personal relationships with some of the athletes they're covering. I think in most cases that they and Brian have personal relationships with the people they're covering. It's also worth noting this could become a bigger issue if disc golf does become available with online sports books. Curious what you think." And that's from Don.
Oh, okay. It's an interesting thought. I think there's a little bit of an unhealthy focus on like having everything be exactly equal for all cards at the tournament. But that's just not really realistic. Like, there are simply going to be more resources placed on the upper cards at elite tournaments because of the fact that those are being filmed. Those are being sent out to the world. We don't want delays as much as we can avoid it. You know, think about all the things that they do differently, right? There's more of a gap in tee times for the late cards. Obviously, they're playing later in the day as a result of the scheduling. You're more likely to have marshals or the tour director or, otherwise have staff there to help adjudicate things or call time violations. versus whoever's playing on the 18th card. Like, is there really a scenario in which a player on the lead card is gaining such a significant benefit that they are going to win over somebody who is 4 cards deep? I mean, it's just not happening.
Right.
So I don't think it makes sense to me to say, oh, ignore that you've seen where the disc is and make them hunt around for it and make us wait for them to go dig around in the weeds and probably find it since you know where it is. I get the point from like a philosophical standpoint, but I just think if someone's like, hey, there's the disc, like that's just how it should be. Like if a spectator sees where the disc is, they should point it out. Like the goal is not to try to get somebody stroked. It's to help them find it. I mean, I'm not saying that you need to send like a search party through the woods, but like if somebody sees where it goes, communicate that so that they could continue playing the game. That's the way that I look at it.
And like the odds of somebody on the first card out of the day losing a disc is much higher than one who has the fairways lined with spectators who, if it's going out of bounds where it might get lost by for other cards, it's hitting a spectator, right? Like that is inherent advantage that comes with getting to play later in the day by virtue of playing well. And at the end of the day, this is something that I think of often when I think of professional sports. And disc golf is still trying to find its balance, but there are rules decisions and choices made in professional sports that I have friends and other people who complain, well, that's not fair. It's not best for the integrity of the game. And at that point, it's like, remember, professional sports is an entertainment business. That's it. That's all it is. When the disc golf pro tour does not create this tour because it cares about creating the most integrity possible for the best players in the world in disc golf. They do it because they want to make money broadcasting and selling tickets to come to this event, and making a lead card take a penalty and go back and re-tee, delaying the broadcast because they couldn't find their disc when Brian Earhart is like, standing with it like right next to him and like trying to cough and point at it. Like that, I don't think that is entertainment. And so at the end of the day, is it the most fair? Probably not.
No.
But is it conducive to entertainment the most? Absolutely. And that is the priority of the program.
It's not the most fair, but I would argue there's probably more disadvantages to playing on the lead card than advantages.
That's
because
great point.
you got people who are going to call you on time violations a whole lot more if you're on that card than if you're 10 cards deep. No one cares what you're doing down there unless you're so slow that you're backing everybody up.
Right.
So, there's more scrutiny. There's more eyes, like the pressure of cameras. Like those things are negatives, not positives. I mean, there are positives in that, of course, from like a business of disc golf perspective, but from an actual competition perspective, I don't think it's advantageous. So little things like that just doesn't bug me. Okay, next up. This one comes from Clarence. Kristen Tattar, over-reliance on the forehand shot is worth discussing. This problem goes back a ways, and there are many, many, many examples. I believe it cost her the Champions Cup in 2022 and this year as well. The loss to Katrina at the Preserve last year also sticks out. She's constantly manufacturing forehand shots when the backhand anhyzer is the line. Usually the issue is bringing left side trees into play. In those instances, if she manages to avoid them, she skips way right of the ideal landing zone. This would be understandable if she was a poor backhand player, but she isn't. Maybe she has trouble with pulling standstill backhands right, but if so, practice it. I've occasionally seen her do the Annie backhand with a harp, and indeed it comes out of the Annie too early, but there are a lot of trilogy putter stabilities between a harp and a pure, like Crown, Gauntlet, Judge. She's so good. I'm thankful for her presence, and I love watching her, but this blind spot drives me crazy. She'd have been 1,000 plus rated a long time ago if she solved this issue. What do you think, Josh?
We talked about this a little bit on the Reacts, about how this Champions Cup at Northwood demands shots that have multiple like shapes to the flight, thus demanding flip up hyzers, long turnovers that flatten out, etc.
Late turning shots, all that
late
stuff.
Turning, yeah, exactly. And I've never noticed it, but like I can think of other players in FPO and think of examples of really, really excellent backhand turnover shots. And I can't think of that with Kristen. And I think he's right. I think that Kristen does have. Now, here's the thing. I think that Kristen has one of the most well-rounded games in the sense that she can lean on the forehand and the backhand equally, right? Like both of them she seems equally comfortable with. But that specific shot is one that I don't think I've seen Kristen use nearly as often. And in certain cases, it probably would be beneficial. Now, the counterpoint to that is if she had to, you can't be perfect at everything. And the nice part about the forehand, especially because when does this come into effect? Primarily in woods, when, as Clarence says, there are trees to the left side. It is easier to hit a gap that is a small gap with a forehand when you're looking at it than it is with a backhand, especially a backhand turnover that's going to probably require some height. And so I think she makes up more than enough strokes relative to her competitors, but she probably has lost a couple of strokes in cases where she does not comfortably shape backhands on turnovers. I'm going to be watching for it now. That's for sure.
It is very interesting. I think relative to other FPO players, the holes in Kristen's game are a lot smaller. We're talking about a very specific shot shape here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think, like, generally, Kristen doesn't like to throw anything but flat.
Right.
Like, she'll throw a hyzer, but she doesn't really throw a lot of annies in general, or try to get those kinds of flexing shots. It's just not what she's trying to do. And obviously, it works extremely well for her, but there are spots, we've been very critical at times of Missy for not having a functional forehand, and it has cost her strokes. I mean, I can go back to Worlds and watch that footage of Missy. She was playing fantastic, and yet she must have lost 8 strokes that week from not having a forehand. There was a spot where she just absolutely had to throw a forehand, and she shanked it into OB on hole 4, I think, in round 4 or 5. I can't, it all blends together in my head, but that's a big weakness, right? Not having one of your sides is a way bigger weakness than not having a specific shot shape.
Right.
But I agree that, like, it is something that she could simply practice and certainly be able to execute, at least at a level of, like, I want to be able to throw 300-foot backhand turnover shots, whatever it is.
Yeah.
250. Like, something where you want it to move right, but then have some left finish. And you can't get that with a forehand.
Mm-hmm.
So whether or not it's actually cost her tournaments, I mean, that's more of a stretch, I think. But it's easy to pinpoint that there's like, oh, well, she should have thrown this shot shape and she didn't. Mm-hmm. Therefore, that was a stroke, and therefore, if she'd done it, she would have won. It's kind of harder to get that specific with it, but I do think that it's a shot she could get better at.
Yeah. Great. This is one of Charlie. I think this deserves our mailbag of the week, or the
mailbag question of the week.
Mailbag question of the week.
Clarence,
I think this one,
you're gonna win a free 3 months of Ultra World Disc Golf subscription. So come join us in the Discord and listen to the Rapid Reacts.
Yeah, it's so analytical and so insightful, and it's unique. Haven't seen it before. Love it.
And this is the kind of next level stuff that we're gonna need to get from our analysts.
Right.
It's interesting. Like, I think Brian Earhart is somebody who's like actually
yes,
especially as he's had more time on the air, and they have so much time. They have to talk constantly, right? Tournament Central, like hours and hours and hours a day and weekend. You start to be able to pinpoint some of these things, and we're starting to get some of that deeper analysis of like player tendencies and shot shape selections. And I think there are certain analysts who are good at this, but this is the next level of what we need to do. And what we need to talk about. And identifying players' weaknesses and strengths and how certain hole types play to those.
Yes. Yeah. And yes. Yep. Completely agree.
All right, we got one more.
Last one, real easy. And this I thought about this before we even got this email. I literally thought about this. We had the episode where we talked about logos. Bryce says, "How can you talk about mid-tier players and their logos, and not give a shout out to Luke Humphreys? He's my favorite logo in disc golf."
It's a great logo.
Bryce is absolutely right.
There's nothing I can say.
We should have shown it. Yeah, my wife bought a disc of Luke Humphreys because she liked the logo.
Wow. See, now that's how you know you got a great logo.
Yeah. So
she didn't have any connection to Luke Humphreys or otherwise.
Oh, zero. She just saw the logo and loved it. Yeah.
Okay. Now that's what I'm talking about.
She's only done that twice. The other one was with James Proctor's new signature series Centurion. It's a little Roman like bear.
Let me take a look at it real quick.
You got to look.
We'll put it up on the screen.
We'll put it on the screen.
It's okay. I see. Yeah.
This is the first disc my wife has bought in like 2 years, probably, and it was because of the logo. She doesn't bag it.
Hey,
but
that make cool stamps.
Makes cool stamps.
Get dollars in your pocket.
That's right. That's right.
All right. I actually have one more, Josh.
Okay.
And this will serve as our transition to previewing the Dynamic Discs Open. The Pro Tour has changed their rules about what you're allowed to bring to tournaments. I bet you saw this already, Josh.
I did see this. I put it in the Discord.
I already know how you're going to react to this. But the Spectator Rules, starting with DDO, and I checked, I went into the future, and this is in effect for all Pro Tour events moving forward. And I'll just quote from the rules. Large bags and rolling carts are prohibited. This includes disc golf bags, Zuka carts, etc. All bags are subject to security check at the gate. Now, I don't know how you define a large bag. They do not give it dimensions. I don't know what a small bag is. But maybe you know it when you see it. But Josh, they have banned bags and carts from Pro Tour events. Now, this is not explicitly stated, but I am sure that it is in part due to the security rule changes that they are putting into effect following what happened at the Music City Open. So, can you please react to this?
Yes. On the positive side, I'm glad they're taking security seriously and working. I mean, this just feels like, given any event anywhere of any kind, like this is like the bare minimum of what those events are going to kind of require and have. So I'm glad they're taking it seriously. It is tragic that we had to even get to this point in disc golf due to the security threat at Music City Open. On a disconnected note from the gravity of why we're doing this, my heart is elated that I will never see a disc golf bag full of discs walking around with the spectators ever again.
Somebody on Reddit was like, Charlie is going to be so pumped. And I was like, fraudulent listener.
I folk. It's so ridiculous. Oh my gosh. Why would you carry your bag? I just can't get it. I can't get it.
I mean, I saw a bunch of people mad about this because they want to have their cart so they can sit on it. And
tri-legged stool, man.
Yeah, the thing is, there are very, 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 very few, if any, sporting events that allow you to bring in large stuff. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like,
imagine rolling up at like I don't know, a hockey or something, and just parking yourself next to the glass in the walkway, sitting on a Zuka cart. Like, I brought my own seat.
Here's the thing, though. It is different because disc golf is outside all day. It's in a giant open space, and what you bring with you is not hurting anybody.
Right.
I guess they just don't want to have to like do extensive bag searches like through a large disc golf bag. And, if you need a stool, bring a stool. You can bring a little 3-chair stool. Also, the Pro Tour needs to put more like benches and places to sit out on the courses, I think. But I don't know. That's a whole other conversation. Some people are going to be annoyed by this. I'm sure a lot of people are not going to see this rule and they're going to show up with their bags because this has never been enforced before. And we'll see how strict they are about it. I think the easy answer is like bring a small backpack or like a little drawstring type bag, and you can bring everything you need in that. Water, snacks, discs for signing
to get signed.
I mean, if you want, put all your discs in there. You never know. Maybe Calvin's going to need you to step up and hook him up with a disc during the tournament. I mean, maybe you're going to get a celebrity shot.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. We'll see. I'm going to be curious to see like what kinds of security things are happening. I don't necessarily know that this is like solving the problem in a meaningful way. Again, it feels a little bit more like we're trying to do something approach as opposed to actually doing something that is going to create a real difference. Like I said last week, if you're not wanding people or having them go through metal detector, you're not really preventing anybody from bringing in a weapon.
Yeah. You're right. But I think I appreciate that they are making some efforts. I think that's important.
And they were certainly going to have to do that after what happened. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, a DDO breakdown. There's some interesting hole changes, picks, and then we'll get you out of here and ready for the weekend. We'll be right back. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport, and you've got a great chance to save a little money right now through Sunday, May 5th, so you got to hurry. 20% off toolboxes. These are great bags that you can keep extra discs in your car, use it as a practice round bag, field work. For a long time, I used this as my actual disc golf bag before I got a Rufus. So head over to pounddiscgolf.com, save 20% on toolboxes again through Sunday, May 5th. The Upshot is presented by Sunset Lake CBD, which is a farm that originally started as a dairy farm producing milk and cream for Ben & Jerry's. But in 2019, they diversified to keep up with the times and started growing hemp for CBD. This is just such a fantastic company. If you're looking for CBD products of any kind, gummies, lotions, brownies, they've got it all. They do so much great work in the community. They've donated over $100,000 to organizations that help striking workers make ends meet while on the picket line, expunging the records and supporting the reintegration of the war on drug victims, resettling refugees, and more. They believe that CBD shouldn't be a luxury. Sunset Lake CBD's vertically integrated farm allows them to provide affordable CBD products for everyone by cutting out the middleman. I've personally been loving their Relax gummies, which kind of just help you take the edge off after a long day, get to sleep, just hang out. It's a super nice calming effect. So check it all out, sunsetlakecbd.com, and you can save 20% off your order with code UPSHOT. Again, 20% off with code UPSHOT at sunsetlakecbd.com. Welcome back to the Upshot. The Dynamic Discs Open starts tomorrow, 3-round event in Emporia, Kansas, at the newly dubbed Champions Landing. It's not Emporia Country Club anymore because, remember, Jeremy Rusko bought the property and is turning it into a disc golf destination. They're going to put up a hotel. I mean, these are the goals long term. Mm-hmm. Put up a hotel, pickleball courts, family fun zone, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, not all of that is in place yet. But we do have a classic tour stop, formerly GBO. I think, we've seen various iterations of the courses in this area. That we used to have Jones Gold, and then we had Jones Supreme, but it wasn't very good, so they kind of just got rid of it, and we're back to just playing at what was formerly Emporia Country Club. Josh, course mostly intact. A few spots where they've tightened up OBs, made other various changes. But I do want to talk about a couple of, I think, really important notes. Number one, let's talk about hole 16. This is the iconic hole on the course, one of the iconic shots on tour. It's the full water carry to an island. so many incredible moments here.
Mm-hmm.
And the change of note, Josh, they've moved the drop zone. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll put it up on the screen. The drop zone used to be essentially in like the layup area, and you kind of had a runnable shot. And we've seen it. We've seen people throw it in.
Yes, Ricky's
most
done
classically, Ricky hitting that shot. He was dealing with the grief of his sister, and he hits that and Raptor legs it all the way home. And he wasn't in contention to win the tournament, but it was just this amazing moment of like, it was such an exciting shot, and just like how meaningful it was for Ricky at the time. An awesome moment.
Mm-hmm.
And now the drop zone is on the island. It looks like it's about a C2 or like circle's edge-ish putt at the water. What do you think? Do you like the change?
Hate this change. Absolutely hate this change. And here's why. In rounds 1 and 2, this is an interesting drop zone because there is a decision making here about the risk of going for a circle's edge putt with the water staring you down, right? It's a makeable putt. It's a makeable putt. And so, but it's in your head that if you don't make this putt, then, you're in trouble. And so in rounds 1 and 2, it's interesting and I have no problems with it. In round 3, if you are chasing and down by a couple strokes and you go OB, there is no reason not to run that. And as soon as you take out I'm already losing and I need strokes, then it's just a circle's edge putt. The danger doesn't matter. Missing the putt is like the nail in the coffin regardless of whether or not you go long. And so it makes it, I think when you remove any decision making and when you have to go for it, a circle's edge putt just ain't going to do it for me. It needs to be an 80-footer when somebody is chasing, especially in a hole this close to the end of the tournament. It needs to be an 80-footer when somebody is chasing, has no decision, no like conceivable reason to lay up, make it something that's actually difficult. I think this is actually a really poor change.
It was interesting. I was watching Luca Lorenzen's practice round video out here. Mm-hmm. Very windy, stiff headwind on 16, and she was like, "I'm laying up. Like I'm not trying to challenge this headwind." Sure. So she lays up to the right side on the peninsula.
Yep.
And there's some tree cover there. Like depending on where you land, it can be kind of a tricky approach. And then she put like 5 straight in the water, trying to get onto the green, and she was like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm not going to lay up because I might as well go for it. And if I don't get it, I'm going to have a par save putt at the edge of the circle. So, like, you kind of take the layup play out of play entirely, which has pros and cons. I just think it changes the dynamic of this hole a lot.
Yep. Because
you're looking at a bogey if you went in the water before, and now you really realistically can, especially if you're a good putter, you can save that par every time.
Every time. So
does this make it a 1-shot swing hole instead of a 2-shot swing hole?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I think it's a really poor change, especially just like what this hole has represented in the past and the way that it's affected tournaments. Like, it feels so antithetical to everything this hole used to be, and it just fundamentally changes the way that this is going to be played in a way
I don't know why anybody would consider laying up,
and maybe
unless
that's
you're
what they
a terrible
wanted.
putter, I guess. But like, let the risk reward be there.
Exactly. There's no decision making left on this hole.
So okay, let's talk about another hole.
Okay,
18.
Yep.
They've added a water carry to this, Josh. So it's a pretty interesting hole. And I think importantly, it's an island green and there's no drop zone. So you have to come onto the island safe. And if you are short, you have to throw again.
Yep.
You cannot go up. You don't get to play from the edge of the OB like if you cross over the green. Like, you have to make the island safe before you go over across the bridge. So, having seen this hole on video in the practice rounds, it's a relatively straightforward island to it's not like it's a postage stamp. It's pretty spacious. I don't necessarily think we're going to see people tin cupping horribly, but that possibility does exist, especially if somebody's a little bit out of position further back to fairway and it's a longer shot to get to the island. I'm going to be very curious to see how it plays. What do you think of 18?
So let me. I don't see any special notes here, which means it does not look like it plays bunker rules. So if you have somebody who's
not say that.
further back, they throw and miss the island, they get to go all the way up to the water's edge and then chip it across for 100
I believe
feet.
That's right.
So this is not the most punishing hole in the world. I'm curious to see.
It's only 150 feet from the edge of the fairway to the green. So like that should, if you go in the water once, like you should be able to get across pretty straightforward. I mean,
that very different than European Open, where Anthony Barella has to throw again and again and again from the same spot until he lands somewhere in bounds. Right. Very, very different.
I honestly think they maybe should change the rule. I think they maybe should make it a bunker rule type scenario.
I think that because now here's let me throw in another thought here, right? Is like I think that and I'd have to go watch it again. But at 880 feet, this is not a long hole. Par 5.
No, it's eagleable for big arms.
That's what I'm saying. And here's the thing, it's not on it's eagleable, but let's say you're AB, right? So you throw your first one to the corner and you're 440 feet. And so you throw your second shot, go for the eagle, you miss, you get to approach all the way to the edge of the OB water line. So you drop 3, you upshot 4, tap in 5. Like the fact that you can go for eagle and walk away with a par is, and we'll have to see if that's how it actually plays out. But the way I've conceptualized this in tournament play makes me think that this whole, I think bunker rules probably is what it needs. I think it might be a little bit, but then probably everybody just lays up. So
the first water carry is about 330 feet for MPO. And I wonder if we're going to see players making positional shots to the short side of that fairway. Instead of trying to go all the way out to the corner,
they just play short.
Carry 500 and ish, out around the bend. They're going to play short and then throw a huge hyzer onto the island.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I just think that like for big arms, it's clearly a short enough hole that it's reachable in 2. And if you want to play for birdie, it should be trivial.
I think so too. I think this
for
is
most
too
players
soft
on
for a
tour.
par 5. Yeah.
It's an interesting change. I would like to see. We'll see. They may need to make some tweaks because like bunker rules would be really interesting because then if you're like you're sort of disincentivized at that point to go for the eagle unless you really need it.
Yeah.
Because if you throw and you go in the drink, you don't get to go advance 300 feet and throw from the edge and just get your par. You're like, oh, well, now what?
Right. So
you kind of force people to decide whether they want to try to go for it or if they want to pitch up, lay up, and then take the easy shot across. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. What's too bad? I thought the old hole 18 was really good.
Yeah.
So I hope this plays good because it's. I don't mind when you experiment when you had like a subpar hole 18 and you try things, but I really liked hole 18. I thought there was really interesting shots, and I think most notably of like Paul Macbeth and Aaron Gossage, where Paul went up the gut and Aaron went over the top, and like I loved that dynamic. So I guess we'll see.
We'll see. A lot of players missing this weekend.
Yeah. So
before you make your fantasy picks and whatnot, make sure you get that straight. The Europeans, for the most part, have gone back to Europe. The European Pro Tour swing starts next weekend.
Yep.
Copenhagen Open. So we're going to start seeing some Americans heading over to Europe, and certainly the Europeans going to go take a little time off. And so a lot of FPO players out this week. And let's dig in. So, DDO 2 years ago, insanely windy.
Oh,
they
man.
played it earlier in the year.
Because that was the year that they played it twice.
That's right.
Because they decided to play it for Worlds and for DDO.
That was
still a terrible choice.
A large mistake. Of course, last year, Parker Welk, 10-10 rated, gets the win by a stroke over Calvin Heimberg in truly shocking fashion. And Haley King beat Holland Handley in a playoff in FPO. So, Josh, let's go ahead and get to our picks. No Kristen, no Ella Hansen, no Evelina, no Henna. There's a lot of FPO players that are out of the conversation. Who are you taking to win this week?
So, yeah, all right. Here's the thing. I'm going chalk again. I'm giving you players at the top of the Pro Tour standings. It really is thin. In my 3 spot, I've got Missy Gannon. She was, and here's the thing, Charlie. I'm also looking at Worlds, and how Worlds played out, and include that in there. They played 3 rounds here at the Country Club Champions Landing versus 2 at the Jones, and so Missy was 4th at Worlds, behind Kristen, Henna, Holland. Kristen and Henna obviously not there, so give me Missy there. Give me Holland in the number 2 spot. Holland has been 2nd place here, or been behind people who will not be here multiple times, and so I really like her there. But I think it's I'm gonna say it's sneaky. I don't know if you can ever call picking the dog Owen Scoggins sneaky. Here's the thing. She's going to get me points. I know that. And the other thing is she didn't play DDO in 2022 or in 2023, but she did play it at Worlds. And if you remove your Europeans and Paige, who is just not pickable right now, you had 3 players that would make up your podium, and that's Holland, Missy, and Owen. And Owen was only a couple strokes behind Holland and Missy. So I mean that is your group. I think Owen's going to come out and take this one down.
Wow.
So maybe the winner's a little bit less chalk, like less than expected, but I just feel real confident that I'm going to be walking away with 3 points this weekend.
I that's a bold pick to take Owen here, but listen, never doubt the dog. Even though I think I'm about to doubt the dog.
Are you leaving the dog off your podium?
I am.
Charlie, you know better.
You
know better.
I'm just. You know what I really want to do?
What do you want to do?
I think I'm going to rationally talk myself out of it. I want to pick Paige for her comeback tournament. This is a course where she really feels comfortable and at home, but
Charlie, I think you're right.
I don't know if I can trust that her that she's going to throw in bounce enough.
This is a place that she's really succeeded. I think that she, because of her injury, will probably be playing a little bit more conservative, and so probably can stay in bounds more. I think you should pick Paige.
Get out of here, you troll. I'm going to take Missy Gannon in my 3 spot. I think she actually played pretty well here last year, but then had a bad final round. Had she shot well in that final round, she probably would have been on the podium. I don't know if she would have contended for the win. It would have been a tough ask, but she's been solid. And with so many players out, somebody's got to finish on the podium. And why not the best player so far this season? Right. Number 2 this season.
Number two.
Haley King is in my 2 spot. Look, I know Haley has been mercurial and had bad rounds, but she was 4th at Music City.
Yep.
Despite having a horrible garbage round.
I know. I'm so mad about that because that's when I put her on the podium.
And she's super comfortable on this course.
Yep.
Obviously she won it last year. So I'm taking that, but it is an absolute lock Holland Handley victory this week. Lock.
Wow.
Lock. Money on it. Let's go. I'm telling you, she's a Kristen-esque favorite this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Kristen-esque, meaning you think even odds with the field?
Yes.
I'd put $10 on it right now. If I
Let's
get the
do it.
field, okay,
Let's do
$10. I get the field, you get Holland.
All right.
Straight up.
I'm telling you, the combination of her game right now, her comfort on this course, the players who are out, how is it not Holland's weekend?
All right.
I would
like
be very concerned if she blows it again in the final round, because this is like the ultra spot for her.
It is. You are right.
So I mean, she was great here at Worlds.
Uh-huh.
She podiumed.
She's been good here 3 tournaments
She was
in a row.
in a playoff to win the tournament last year.
Yep.
I'm telling you, she should be the wide consensus top pick to win this weekend, and I am definitely taking that. Ella Hansen's not here. I didn't even mention that, I don't think.
Yep.
And she is somebody who's played well here too. I'm actually surprised she's taking the weekend off. So there you go. All right, MPO.
Haley's going to shoot a 10-20 rated tournament.
Dude,
and just
I know.
blow off.
At least I put her on the podium. All right, here's my MPO picks.
All right. Let's hear it.
I'm not going chalk. I'm going a little chalk.
Okay.
Number 3, I got Gannon Burr.
Okay.
Actually hasn't played that great here, but
Nope.
right now, Gannon feels like the best player to me on the planet. And I know AB's had more wins, and I know that he's, if I was voting on player of the year, I would definitely vote for Barella right now.
Sure.
But I just think that like week in, week out, Gannon is the scarier player.
Okay.
So he's kind of
respect
podium lock for me. I'm actually not putting AB on my podium because he's played bad here in the past. Bad.
He has.
Now, I maybe will instantly regret this when in round 1 he shoots the hot round, and I'm like, hey, I told myself 2 weeks ago that he is an absolute podium lock right now. But, I was arguing with folks in the Discord that he's going to at some point have a slump, and how's he going to play through it?
Yeah.
And people's like definition of what a slump was like 3 straight tournaments where he finished outside the top 10. And I'm like, okay, but so what has he done? He's done 7th Music City, 10th Champions Cup. Like, it's feeling like a slump, Josh.
It's borderline. It's
and
borderline.
like those are top 10s, but like,
yeah.
I don't know. When the bar is that high, I'm not sure what a slump is, but I feel like he's in it. Number 2, I've got Ricky Wysocki, who just plays amazing here. He could win.
Especially in adverse conditions.
He could win.
Yes,
I'm surprised you don't have him on the podium. But he could absolutely win. But I'm calling it. Ezra Robinson's winning this weekend.
I love that pick. That's so cool.
Ezra Robinson is going to do it.
You're going to look like a genius if you nail this.
Listen, he has been playing good this season.
Mm-hmm.
7th at Waco, 3rd last weekend at the Champions Cup. And he has done very well here in the past. I think he's got a very good chance to have a big weekend, and it's just a matter of time. I feel like he's going to win one.
Yeah. Love it.
So I'm calling it as Robinson's weekend.
Okay.
All right.
Charlie.
Yes.
This might be, it's not often that you and I have picks where we don't share a single person on the podium.
That is true.
We don't share any MPO players on the podium today.
That's surprising.
In my third pick, I've got Kyle Klein. I pick Kyle instead of Gannon because while I think Gannon could win this tournament, I think he could also finish 20th. And to me, like Gannon has this like kind of spirals when things don't go his way, and DDO has a way with the OB. If there's a lot of wind and there's supposed to be rain on Sunday, that I think that there could be a spiral. And so I'm going to pick the guy who I think is typically more consistent and like consistently smooth and doesn't have quite as big of ups and downs as Gannon does. So I've got Kyle Klein in my 3 spot. My 2 spot, I've got Matteo. Matteo has played well here in the past. He's another guy who's just an absolutely solid player. He had a podium at Worlds here. It kind of feels like an own pick in that same way, right? That just very smooth. I guess the story of my picks are like I'm just trying to pick the players who I think are just consistent and are not going to let adversity get in their way, because we've seen in years that this course will do that to people. In my one spot, though, Charlie, you're never going to believe it. I've got Calvin Heimberg.
Wow. Listen, I don't hate it.
I still have a question about the forehand.
Yeah, you have
but you have to, and I get that. But I think this is a course where Calvin kind of gets the opportunity to, like, he doesn't. There's going to be more room to shape things that I don't think he's going to be quite as dependent on the forehand as he would be in certain tournaments. And listen, at Jonesboro he was second, and he was fifth at Champions Cup despite not having a forehand in Northwood. Like, he still is a very great
absent
player.
Parker Welk playing out of his mind, he would have won this tournament last year.
Right. So, I'm going with players who I think are going to play consistent. I might not pick the winner, but I think there's a good chance that I could get all three of my guys on the podium, and that's kind of the story of my.
What odds would you need to
MPO
take Parker Welk this weekend?
Oh my gosh, none.
There's no price.
Here's my price: $100 free on DraftKings. If you gave me a free $100 on the condition that I bet it on Parker Welk, well, I would bet it on Parker Welk.
If you give me free money to bet, and I'm only allowed to have it if I can bet on something, I will probably take it too, Josh.
But I mean, his best finish this season, 27th at Jonesboro.
Okay,
he's sitting tied for 60th.
You ready for his tournaments last year, leading up to the DDO win?
All right, hit me.
52nd at Portland, 36th at the Silver at Cascade Challenge, 67th at the Silver at Beaver State Fling, 23rd at OTB Open, 80th at Jonesboro, 68th at Champions Cup. It's written in the stars, Josh. He's going to make fools of us.
Hey, do you want to add to that Holland Hanley bet? You want to stick another 10 on Parker Welk winning?
What odds are you giving me? Why would I take
straight
that?
Because it's written in the stars.
If
Charlie.
I really believed it was written in the stars, I'd pick him. Hey, something. Sometimes horses for courses. Listen, you never know.
Maybe.
The confidence factor is going to be high, but I think it was a stunning fluke last year. But hey, prove us wrong.
Yeah.
All right.
Prove us wrong. I'll have you on the show, and we will eat crow.
That's the truth.
Here,
that is going to do it for this week's edition of the Upshot, and we will be back with you on Sunday night for our Rapid Reacts live in the Discord for all of our Ulti-World Disc Golf subscribers. So head over to discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe, sign up today, and join us on Sunday in the Discord and all weekend to chat about what's going on at the tournament. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.